Well, I'm recording this second video to talk about my progress regarding the research. Last time I said I'm going to talk about the analysis of both the diagnostic test and the questionnaire. Well, in order to make things actually easy for me in this video, I created a PowerPoint presentation in order to easily proceed with the amount of information that I'm going to present right now. Well, luckily, I received 108 responses for both the questionnaire, the learning style preference, tolerance of ambiguity, and motivation questionnaire, and the same number of students, 108, also responded to the EFL diagnostic pretest. I'm going to start with the information I received, or the statistics I managed to create regarding the questionnaire. First of all, the questionnaire consists of 60 items. 20 items are about the 4 perceptual learning styles, and individually auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile learning styles, with 5 items testing each learning style preference. There are also 10 other items testing or measuring collaborative learning style preferences, 5 for individual and 5 for the group learning style preferences. There are 9 items to measure the extrinsic motivation and 9 others for intrinsic motivation. And the last 12 items are mainly for measuring tolerance or intolerance of ambiguity. It's in a Likert form, Likert scale form, with 5 choices: strongly agree, agree, undecided, disagree, and strongly disagree. To calculate the score for the perceptual learning styles and also the collaborative learning styles, I mean visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile, in addition to group and individual. For strongly agree, students get 5 points. For agree, 4. For undecided, 3. For disagree, 2 points. And for strongly disagree, just 1 point. Then the total number of the 5 items is, added up and multiplied by 2. It's very important to, talk about the students' learning style preferences here. Most of them scored highly in 2 or 3 different learning style preferences, which means that they are bimodal, trimodal, or even multimodal. As for calculating the score for motivation, the same method is followed, but without multiplying the score by 2. If they score 37 to 45, which is like 5 times 9, this means very high in extrinsic or intrinsic motivation. From 29 to 36, it just means high. From 19 to 27, it means moderate extrinsic or intrinsic motivation. From 10 to 18, it is low, and from 1 to 9, it is very low. As for calculating tolerance of ambiguity, it is calculated in a different way. 4 points is given for strongly agree, 3 for agree, 0 points for undecided, not 3 like the other items, 2 for disagree, and 1 for strongly disagree, and the score is not doubled, it's just added up. If they score between 37 and 48, it's highly tolerant. Between 25 and 36, it's intolerant. From 13 to 24, it means tolerant, and from 0 to 12, it means highly tolerant. Now, here are the interesting pieces of information. As I said, 108 students or study participants responded, which is almost or a bit more than 25% of all the students at the research site, which is the School of Business at the American University of the Middle East, particularly the EFL Foundation program. 67 female students participated and 41 male students participated, which is the normal distribution over there, which 62% are females and 38 are males. As for the bimodal or multimodal students, those who have more than one learning style preference regarding perceptual learning styles, 89 students out of the 108 have more than one learning style preference. 34 are male, which is 83% of the total number of males, and 55 are female students, which is 82%. When their gender here does not play a significant role regarding bimodality, or trimodality, or multimodality in the preference of perceptual learning style preferences. Only 19 students out of the 108 students have just one major learning style preference, 7 male students and 12 female students. As for the major learning style preferences of the Kuwaiti AFL first-year college students, 75 out of the 180 students prefer the auditory learning style, which is 70% of the total number. 49 of them are females, which is 73% of females, and 26 are males, which is 63%. This means that there are more females who prefer the auditory learning style. The next preferred learning style is synthetic, which is 68%, because 73 students out of 108 preferred this learning style. 42 are females and 31 are males. Here the percentage is higher for males because it is 76% of the total number of males, but 63 only for for the total number of females. The next learning style preference is the tactile. 42 students prefer this learning style, which is 39%. 28 of them are females and 14 are males. The difference is not significant here. And the last preferred learning style, which is surprising for me because I thought the majority are visual, but actually 35% only of them prefer the visual learning style, because that's 38 students, 25 of them are females and 13 are males. Again, gender does not play a significant role here in the visual learning style preference. As for group or individual learning style preferences, only 12 students out of the 108 participants prefer the individual learning style, which is 11%. 6 females and 6 males, only 12. What's interesting about this is that there is a positive correlation between this learning style preference, which is an individual learning style preference, and the kinesthetic learning style preference, because 10 out of 12 prefer also kinesthetic, and this is a high rate, of course. 75 students out of the 108, which is exactly 70%, prefer the group learning style preference, in contrast to only 12 preferring, or only 12 students, preferring the individual learning style preference. 73% is the percentage of females, and 63 is the percentage of males who prefer group learning style. The group learning style, which means that females tend to prefer working groups than males. But overall, actually, the majority of all the students prefer this learning style preference. The group learning style preference correlates with both the auditory learning style and the kinesthetic. Well, the auditory mainly because 57 of them, 57 out of the 75 students prefer the auditory learning style preference. The next surprising or the next interesting piece of information is about the tolerance of ambiguity. As we said, for the tolerance of ambiguity, the scores should range from 0, which is highly tolerant, to 48, which is highly intolerant. For highly intolerant, it should be 37 to 48. For intolerant, 25 to 36. And for tolerant, 13 to 24. What's surprising is that only 18 of them, which is 17%, scored at the tolerant, score. None of them. There wasn't a single student who scored as highly tolerant, or whose score meant it's highly tolerant. 77 of them are intolerant, with 44 girls and 33 boys. Here, the boys are more intolerant because it's 80%, and the girls, 66% of them are intolerant. If we go back to the only 18 ones who are tolerant, 22% of the females are tolerant because there are 15 girls, and 10% of the boys are tolerant because there are only 4, which means that girls are here more. It's just a matter of numbers, actually, because the majority of them 77 are intolerant, and 12 are highly tolerant. So I would say that the majority of them they have a high rate of intolerance of ambiguity. As for the 18 tolerant ones, 15 of them prefer group learning style preferences. So there is a positive correlation between group learning style, the group learning style, and the tolerance of ambiguity. And 13 out of these 18 prefer the auditory learning style preference, and 13 also out of the 18 prefer the kinesthetic learning style preference. So there is a positive correlation between tolerance of ambiguity and three other learning styles, which are group, auditory, and kinesthetic learning style preferences. As for extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, let's start with extrinsic motivation. Only one student scored 27, and the other 107 scored 28 or more, which means that almost all of students, scored very highly or highly regarding extrinsic motivation. And again, gender does not play a significant role here. The same thing for intrinsic motivation, because only 4 students, three females and 1 male, scored below 27, which means, again, the vast majority, 104 of them, scored either at the very high intrinsic motivation or high intrinsic motivation. So gender, again, does not play a significant role here. Now, let me talk about the diagnostic test. The diagnostic test, as it was previously pointed out, it includes 40 questions in 6 parts. 4 parts test reading and vocabulary, but vocabulary is tested indirectly. 1 part tests vocabulary and grammar directly, and 1 part tests grammar directly. The test is at the B1 level, which is the pre-intermediate. It is similar to the PET test, which is short for Preliminary English Test, prepared by Cambridge. But this one is a shorter version because it has only 40 questions. The other original, of course, has more questions because tests listening and speaking, which are not tested in this one. The pass grade is 70%, which means students should score 35 out of 50. Any score lower than that means that they are not at the B1 level. They could be but they are at the A2 level, which is lower. Again, 108 study participants responded to the diagnostic test. The same number, 67 females and 41 males. The average score, or the arithmetic mean for this test, is 27 out of 50, which means that the majority of them did not make it, did not pass. The median score is 27, and the mode is 23 because 10 students scored 23. The range of scores is between 15 out of 50, which was scored by 2 students, 1 male and 1 female, and 39, this is the highest score, was scored by a male student. Only 14 students out of the 108 students scored 70% or more. 9 of them were females and 5 were males. Again, gender doesn't play a significant role because the percentage for females is 13% and for males it is 12%. The average score for females is 28 and for males it's 26. The median score for males is 29 and for females 25. The mode for males, it is 23. It was scored by 5 students, but the mode for female students, we have actually 3 modes, not 23. I wrote 23 here by mistake, just 3 modes. The score of 35, 31, and 29. These scores were achieved by 6 students each. The range for female students is from 15 to 37, but for male students from 15 to 39. Well, out of the 14 students who passed or who got 70% or more, 11 of them prefer the auditory learning style. 10 of them prefer the group learning style preference, and 8 prefer the kinesthetic learning style preference, which means there is a positive correlation between success in EFL and the auditory learning style, the group learning style, and the kinesthetic learning style for this particular group of Kuwaiti EFL students at Tier 1 in their college studies. Only 2 of these students have a very high tolerance of ambiguity, but 5 have a score of being tolerant, regarding ambiguity. And 5 actually is a big number here because those who are tolerant among all of them are only 18. So there is again a positive correlation between tolerance of ambiguity and success in EFL and there is a negative, of course, correlation between intolerance of ambiguity and success. As for motivation, it does not play a significant role. So these were just some initial statistics. After I received all the responses and used Excel, Microsoft order to analyze the answers. Used many mathematicals. I did some things manually, but at the end, of course, I had to check using Excel. And let me talk about what's next. I have already chosen 18 candidates for the interviews. The interviews were supposed to be conducted last week, but last week the EFL instructors told me they couldn't do it because of the students taking different quizzes. So it will be done. Hopefully, it will be done on time next week. I sent 18, but my target, the target number is 8 to 10. But some of them might not be willing to take part in the interviews. That's why I sent 18 different emails to choose from them, and of course they will be chosen based on their willingness. And I intentionally reflected, a fair representation of both genders, and also I included some visual, some auditory, some kinesthetic, some tactile. I mean, I had to vary the candidate. I mean, those who scored highly in different learning style preferences. The interviews will take place from Sunday to Thursday. As for the mini test, it has already been emailed, and students started responding. They are expected to finish the responses or to send the responses within 2 days. I have already received 56 responses out of 108, which is good. I hope that all of them will respond. And more analysis, of course, will be done in the remaining assignments and in the written assignments of the next modules. Thank you very much.